Hi. Good afternoon. Here at the Indy vMug, I'm going to give you a little information on vROPs and sort of the why do you use it, and give you some tips on how to use it. So thought it'd be a little bit fun and call it "Let the Force Be with vROPs," IT ops. So basically, it's about operations manager looking at it from a larger architecture perspective, and then also just talking a little bit about the benefits of using the agents within the platform. So first, to call this the force, call it the features of what operations manager can provide you. So one of the key things that it does provide across infrastructure is a single pane of glass of visibility for everything you have within your infrastructure. This single pane of glass concept is very interesting, especially as infrastructures grow. So as infrastructures grow from a single vCenter server to with 3 hosts to maybe multiple vCenter servers and 2 sites with say 10 hosts per site, or even a recent project I was involved with. They have a number of sites around the globe and about 600 hosts, and right now they have about 13 vCenters. So the operations manager can take all of those components and integrate them and show them and display them in a single pane of glass perspective. What's also very interesting as well in operations manager is that there's other plugins that you can plug into it to give it more features and more capabilities to gain visibility within other components in your infrastructure. So for example, if you have an EMC SAN or Cisco UCS, or Cisco Nexus switches, or even many other types of components within your infrastructure. There's not only tools or extra modules provided by VMware in the marketplace, but also a company called Blue Medora. They also provide many of these plugins for Operations Manager. And what it primarily gives you is additional metrics and additional visibility into the rest of that piece of your infrastructure. Another thing that Operations Manager provides is metrics and event correlation. So how does it do that? There's many different metrics that Operations Manager provides, but one of the nice powers that it has is that you can see those metrics within a single pane, a single window. Oftentimes, as IT professionals, we're struggling to kind of, okay, so we log into an operating system, we're having some problems, we log into the OS and we're kind of seeing some CPU spikes, or maybe we're seeing sort of memory contention or memory run, start to run out inside the machine, but yet we look at it from a physical infrastructure perspective, maybe through vSphere, and we might not see that same type of information. Or, hey, there's something that happened in the storage, maybe we don't know about it. The application is seeing very slow performance. Well, without that single pane of glass visibility, we're not going to be able to see a particular a particular storage problem that is related to a performance problem that an application might be seeing. So we can see things in a single pane to help us identify issues and move forward to a resolution much faster than we otherwise could. Just as I was saying, Operations Manager can help us sort of identify different types of performance issues in the environment, by showing us different metrics, showing us maybe latencies in storage, or different types of network latencies, or CPU contention, or memory contention. So we can see those things happening as well. Obviously, very key for troubleshooting. We can troubleshoot problems if we're able to see those issues in a single pane of glass. It can also help us do capacity management and planning. So one of the very interesting things that it can show us is capacity from an infrastructure perspective, say within hosts or within storage. But what's very interesting is we can see those types of things over a length of time. we can see them for, for the past 6 months, or we can even see what it might calculate from some point in the future. So say for example, we're starting to, get to that 80% level within memory in a host. Well, we can see it project out, up to 3 or even 6 months, and it'll show us that, hey, even in 3 months, maybe because of past history, we might not use any more memory, but it could also show us different cases where we might run out of memory from the host, might hit 100% at some point. Also, from a point of view of planning, let's say, for example, my company is, or our company is going through some sort of acquisition, or we're acquiring another company, and we have right now existing workloads. Say it's 500 VMs. This other company, and our infrastructure is running pretty well. Maybe it's running 60% or so. This other company, they might have an additional 200 VMs that we're acquiring, and we need to take those VMs and merge them into our own environment at some point during the acquisition. Well, Operations Manager has the capability of us taking that workload that the other client has and sort of model within our own environment what it might do. So we can use this tool to be able to simulate what adding that workload into our environment would look like. So a little bit about the architecture. So what's very interesting is, watching Operations Manager over the years, and as it's matured, it's become much easier to not only deploy but also expand. Now we can deploy multiple nodes to provide redundancy and also load distribution. So no single node has any single purpose. So before, in the past, we used to have to deploy multiple nodes, or different types of nodes. We had a management node, and we had a data and analytics node. Now all of those components are built into one appliance, and that allows basically all those appliances that are part of a cluster to be able to, not only respond to you logging into the interface and viewing dashboards, but also allows agents to be able to connect to those machines for the ability to bring additional metrics from the OS in. We'll talk more about the agents later. One of the things that it doesn't contain is an integrated load balancer, similar to like Log Insight has that. So in this case, we would need to add an additional load balancer if we so chose to create a cluster, or if we had to create one for load distribution. So NSX Edge, of course, is definitely supported, as well as some other common load balancers out there. Another one being an F5. They're all supported by VMware. So load balancing it's almost necessary in a cluster. There's different ways to do it, but using a load balancer is definitely the recommended method. It provides load distribution for client access as well as agent connectivity. The rule of thumb is you can typically get about 5 to 10 users on a single Operations Manager instance. As you expand that, if you need to have 20, 30, or even 50 users log into it, it's recommended to expand that, because each query, each dashboard drawing does create a lot of CPU churn, depending upon how much data is within that dashboard. So load balancing, having just a single point of entry into the environment can definitely help distribute that load across the cluster. One of the things too that is recommended, highly recommended in a cluster config, is use a SAN certificate. So a SAN certificate allows, as opposed to just a standard single server certificate, in a SAN certificate you can add a bunch of different host names within the certificate itself, and all those host names would be the host names that would make up all of the nodes in the cluster, as well as potential remote collectors if they were also deployed. And here, if we adding remote collectors to gather metrics instead of having the core analytics nodes do the collecting. If we add those, it'll actually reduce the load on the actual analytics nodes. So it's another method of, instead of expanding the cluster, because operations manager nodes are large in size. They have a lot of CPU, a lot of memory utilization. What we can do is we can deploy remote collectors even locally within the environment to reduce that load on the cluster itself. Another method that we can load balance across the different nodes, and typically this is only recommended for remote collectors, is we can actually use DNS entry. So we can use a DNS entry that aliases to the 2 or more remote collectors that might be deployed at the site. And by using that, DNS will act in sort of a round-robin fashion to to be able to distribute the load across the two collectors. If a node goes down, you may have connections that will time out, so it's not the preferred method. But if you don't have a load balancer at that site or available to you, it can be used. So looking at agents, a lot of people don't like agents, but agents do provide a lot of value in this type of system. The agents, they provide additional metrics from within the operating system. A lot of these types of metrics, include not only CPU utilization from the operating system itself, also memory utilization. We can actually evaluate swap. Like what percentage of the actual swap space are we using from within the OS. We can look at network interfaces, if packets are dropping, or even what type of, how much capacity we have there from a network perspective. So typically, once we deploy the agents, there is a very small set of metrics that are automatically enabled and turned on within the default policy. But if we want to have some of the additional metrics collected, we would have to go and add those to the policy itself. Using these additional metrics from the agent, from the OS, they're definitely very helpful in troubleshooting different performance issues. I was recently engaging with another client, and they were having SQL Server problems. And their SQL servers were getting really, really sluggish. It was taking 5-10 minutes to even log into them. Which was very interesting, was their infrastructure showed no signs of stress. They had a vMax, all flash. It was still responding within 5 milliseconds to every request. The hosts were running just fine. They were running a little hot on memory, but CPU utilization was still around 30%. So generally the infrastructure looked fine. But we had this issue where these SQL servers are just taking a long time to really do anything. So once we started looking at the OS itself, first we were looking at perfmon, and what we were noticing was there were a lot of page faults happening, and this, it was continuously happening. We would see 10, 20, 50, 100 page faults per second. And so what we did is we installed the agent, and then we're able to begin seeing that information from within Operations Manager as well. So we could see, yeah, the infrastructure is fine, but we were able to hand the report of saying, hey, we need to change the configuration of how we have these SQL servers set up, and give them a lot more memory, so the page faults would stop. And we were able to hand that to the executive, saying, hey. Because eventually what happens, they had to buy more memory because they were running out in the cluster. But we were able to provide that information by leveraging the agents. So definitely useful for troubleshooting performance issues. Some of the other key things, key applications, is JVM based applications. So the issue here is that Operations Manager can see some metrics from the operating system through VMware tools. But however, it can't see applications that manage their own memory. So here listed I have a couple. SQL Server is one of them, JVM type applications. VMware tools can't see the memory that those particular applications are using. So installing the agents can be very useful in gaining visibility to those other metrics for that. So one little note, particularly about VMware tools, is if you're still running VMware tools older than version 10, VMware tools did not have the ability to see the active memory plus the cache memory until version 10. So if you're running older tools in your environment, older than version 10, Operations Manager is only going to see the active memory that you would see in the environment, that you would see actually even in vCenter's performance graphs. So very important, get your tools up at least past version 10, so that you would retain this visibility. So next I want to take a look at what the architecture would look like for this type of, sort of all the things I've been talking about here. Multiple nodes in a cluster, remote collectors, agents, and sort of show you the path of communication when that happens. So what we're looking at here is basically, two data centers, and then here we could have the actual cluster itself installed at either data center. So for just display purposes, I just put it in the middle. But we can see here that, based on whatever agents we have installed, whether it's within the host itself or whether it's, connecting to some EMC storage, maybe some Dell servers, because there's actually a module that we can monitor the hardware within different servers. Those feed information up to, through load balancer to potentially remote collectors. Same thing as other agents within the VMs themselves. So the remote collectors are going to collect that information and feed it back to the main data nodes. What's very interesting is that the agents themselves, they're using a standard port 443. So it's using the same the same mechanism that we're using to log into the interface itself. The information, like I said, is fed back to the data nodes, and then we're typically logging into those data nodes to view that information. So not very difficult, very easy to deploy. Deploying data nodes is simply just deploy them like a normal virtual appliance. And then as we're beginning to deploy them, there's a choice to whether or not we're deploying an actual data node or a remote collector. And based on that and based on some of the sizing information that we would gain from our environment, we would choose the appropriate size at that time. So now I want to move over to showing you some of the things within Operations Manager. So this is an environment in my home lab. So what we have here is this is the main operations overview dashboard. One of the things I wanted to particularly show, which is very interesting, is an integration point. In one of the early slides I was talking about how we can sort of correlate events not only within Operations Manager itself, but we can actually correlate Operations Manager dashboards with Log Insight. So within here, for whatever we're looking at, and this is context sensitive, if we're looking at a particular environment, and in here I happen to have a number of web servers, infrastructure stuff, some just sort of lab things that I'm doing. We can actually look at from a cluster perspective down here. Let's give it a sec for the screen to refresh. Joy of live demos. So if we click on, there's this little log section, and if we have login site installed here, gonna log back in. With Login Site being integrated into Operations Manager, by clicking here just simply on the cluster, it automatically feeds that cluster view within Login Site. And now we can start to, if there's something, something going on down here, we can immediately start to see, hey, these are all the things that are, these are all the logs that are relative to the cluster itself. We can also do this with individual machines, if individual machines, VMs, are connected. So I've got a bunch of web servers running here that that are feeding data into Login Site. Let's see if we can pull some of that data up, just so I can show you the concept. Maybe. See if it'll go. It won't wait too long, but you get the concept. Basically, all the objects in here, just as long as we have logging information from that particular object that is feeding into Login Site, we can view that right here in a single single dashboard without having to flip back and forth between Login Site and Ops Manager. So another thing I wanted to kind of show you as well. I don't know if you noticed, I've got a couple vCenter servers sitting here within the environment. So within these, I don't have to click around, like for example, troubleshooting different vCenter servers. Oftentimes I'm clicking back and forth between, if I'm using the new HTML5 client or the traditional Flash-based client. Normally I'm switching between tabs trying to identify information. There's ways in here that I can look at these different environments, and even in a single pane of glass. So here, if I go back to if I look at my dashboards, see if it'll come up. I don't think they're coming up. Joys with live demos. Try something real quick. Log back in. So right here we can see from a holistic perspective, what we can see is we have even right in this window right here. I mean, this is one of the default dashboards that come with Operations Manager. We can see we have 2 vCenter servers, numbers of hosts, numbers of VMs. What's really cool is we can even see it's already calculated the vCPU to physical CPU ratio, which is definitely a very important metric if you're looking to obtain a certain level of performance. We can see how many allocated vCPUs we're using, allocated memory. So it gives us that information very quickly. It even gives us some more details down here based on what types of maybe performance levels we're looking to achieve. And VMware by default even kind of given us some standard kind of rules of thumb So if we're looking, if it's critical workload, if it's kind of tier 1, we're really interested in maintaining some performance level with it. They're recommending, hey, maintain a CPU allocation ratio of 1:1, for example. So that's very interesting. Another thing that I wanted to show as we drill down into further and further within the environment, it keeps giving us greater and greater details. So here we're looking at it from just simply a site perspective. We can view health information, inventory information within here, and even some performance metrics here. And each one of these are clickable as well. So we can drill down into those very specific types of things that we might be interested in. So are there any questions? Okay. Well, thanks for watching, and yeah, go try it out. You can download a trial off of VMware's website. I believe you get a 30 or 60-day trial period. Yeah, and send in some feedback.
Just one question.
Yes.
What is your Twitter handle in case someone online sees it and they want to? And repeat the question because they won't be able to hear it.
The question is what's my Twitter handle? Twitter handle is Sir Geekness. So, ping me if you want. All right. Thanks.